Okay, so now we have all of our user information up here. This is for our own user. We might want to exclude our own user in the manage users table. So we'll probably look at that down a little bit later. And then for account settings, we'll just have them manage it from there. Basically, if it's not their account, then then they can look at it from this table. So I'm going to take care of two things here. One, we're going to create a whole bunch of test data and store it in the database using a factory. And two, we're going to look at creating custom attributes that get automatically appended to models when we pull the data for it, like in the case of serializing to JSON in this instance. So here we have user since. User since is basically just the date that it was created at, but we want it to come through as kind of a prettier date. There's Carbon, we can use that, plug into that. I don't necessarily use Carbon a lot. Often I will show just the information I want to show in here as we're passing the data through. So I'll actually create a separate attribute for that. So let's take a look at that first thing. And I'm going to close all of this for now. And we'll open those up a little bit later. But now I'm just going to look at the user model itself. And I want to create an attribute and then append it. So I'll say public function. So to create a custom attribute that we can append to the model, we start with get, and we'll say in this case user since attribute. Okay. What that's going to look like when we actually pull it is when it comes through with the object that we're trying to display in Vue, it's actually going to look like this to pull that in. Let's actually go back to that. So we'll say user management dashboard. And again, we have member since. Really, this should just be user since. Okay. So let's go ahead, get user since attribute, and we're going to say, we're going to return the date, basically in a nicer, prettier format. So this would be the month written out, the day, and then the year. And I'm happy with that. So the only thing we need to do is string to time. And we need to pull in the created at attribute that is on virtually every model that every database table that we create. In fact, if you look back here under database and we look at any of the given migrations, we'll see timestamps. So this timestamps method here actually auto-populates the created at and the updated at as part of our table. And if you want to further see more, we can open up Artisan Tinker. Think of it as like a PHP, or the console for PHP. And in here I could say user, and I'll just pull out the first. There is only one. And we can see we have created at and updated at. One other thing while I'm here that I missed in a previous video was adding into fillable settings. One other thing I want to add into here while I'm at it is settings. We want to cast this as an array. So every time we store to it, we store an array, or every time we pull it out, it automatically gets given to us as an array. But essentially, it's being stored as JSON data. And in here, we'll just do array. We might get to looking at that if we add settings to this in here. Okay, so that's done. We've got our get user since attribute. Now we can pull it in here, and that'll work. The only other thing we need to do is there's also a protected appends attribute in here. Okay, and then appends, I'm going to put in user since, and that will automatically resolve using the magic methods that it uses. Okay, let's go back to our main page here. We'll see if that pops up for us when we pull it in. Perfect, and it did. So user since August 12th, 2020, that's today's date when we created it. Now the other thing we're going to do in this video is we're going to create a user factory. So what a user factory is, it just helps us to very quickly and efficiently make users. So in here, there's nothing that we really need to add to this. The password, this would basically be the hashed version, but the password would be password to log in. So what I'm going to do here is, since there's nothing else we need to add in here, role automatically gets assigned to user. We don't need to change anything to admin or anything like that. Down here in our console, we're going to go and we're going to say factory, And then we're going to specify the user model. So we could say app/user, or we could go and we could say user class. Just to be safe, I'm going to go app/user class. Okay. And then in here, we're going to specify how many we want to create. So I would like to create a large set of data so that we can really test our pagination. And so with that, I'm going to create about 250 different users in here. And we'll say create in this case. So create is actually going to store it in the database for us. And we can see we have that in there. These are the actual records for the users. Now, if we go back to our screen here, we click refresh. Wow, that's great. We got a lot of different users that we can now play around with. So first things first, we have added the factory. We've added over 200 users, but how do we sort through it? So, I mean, you may have noticed on this page for user management dashboard that we pass through this params page. Now, let's say we automatically set that to page number 2. You should see our information change here. Penelope Wasoki. Okay, and we'll go back to page number 1. Okay, so if you kind of see what's going on here, it's now very easy to pull in new users. All we would have to do is change the parameter from page 1 to page 2, and then we would have to call this method again to make that work. And so that's what we'll look at the next page, or in the next lesson, when we create out our paginator. Now the paginator is going to be used for a number of different things in here, like logs. There's a number of different places we can use it. So we're going to build it, assuming that we're pulling data in from Laravel, and it's coming through as results.data. And then I'll show you where we can also pull the other information to know how many pages we have, how many results per page, what page we're on, what results it's showing. We'll look at all of that in the next probably 2 lessons.